Hey guys, it's Di from BeingMommywithStyle, and today I'm going to do a question and answer, which is probably going to be a question and answer one of like 3. So I posted a call for questions on Instagram and Facebook, and holy cow, Instagram for the win. Thank you to everyone that posted over there. I got so many good questions, and I loved like the range. So we're going to go through today and answer some of these questions that were on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm just BeingMommywithStyle, all one word. There were 30 something questions over there, so I'm not going to get to all of them in this video, but I will get to all of them. So first of all, right off the bat, I wanted to read Sheena 4K's comment, and her questions were really great, like starting point for this question and answer, because they're really basic. So she said, how old are you? So I'm 32 years old, and I have been married for 10 years, and so is that right? No, that can't be right. Yeah, that is right. So I'm 32 years old. I'm getting ready to turn 33 this year, and I've been married for 10 years, even though she didn't ask how long I've been married. What's your favorite color? My favorite color kind of alternates between 3 colors: pink, purple, and turquoise. So this one kind of has like the turquoise down in there, and I kind of alternate between those. I would love to like just to have one color and just stick with it. So if you guys have watched Brooke from Pink to Paris, she's one of my Chicago gal friends. She loves pink, and she wears pink like every single day. I love that. I wish I could stick with like one color, but my problem is like I love pink, I love purple, I love turquoise. Right now, and I'm in a mode right now where I'm wearing a ton of black and gray. I just can't stick to one color. But if you give me the option of picking something like a little cosmetic bag or whatever, I'll typically pick it in like a pink, a purple, or a turquoise. Those are my colors that I typically go for. She also said, this is like the hardest question ever. If you had to choose one, would you pick Disney or Target? And are you talking like to exist like forever? Because that's really, really difficult. And you know, obviously I love both of those places, and the tough thing is like Target is like my daily hangout place, like almost literally, not quite daily, but almost literally. So it's the place that I really rely on in my day-to-day life to be able to go grab stuff and, you know, get in and get out very quickly and find what I want. And Disney is like kind of our favorite vacation spot right now. If I had to choose one, I guess I would choose Target because it affects my daily life is the most. So that's kind of a tough question to answer, but I guess I would choose Target because it like affects my daily life the most. So Ribbon31 asks, do you have any tattoos? If so, where? And my answer is boring. No, I don't have any tattoos. I'm not like opposed to them. My husband has tattoos. He has like armbands and different things on his shoulders and things like that. If I did have one, it would be somewhere where I could conceal it, you know. It would be definitely just for me. I'm not like a huge fan of like full sleeves and full legs and all that kind of stuff. But you know, to that being said, that's just my own personal preference, to each their own. It's definitely its own art form. I just never really felt compelled to be permanently attached to something because my tastes change so much. You know, I mean, one minute I would be getting like a Tinkerbell tattoo, and the next minute I would want like something floral. So anyhow, no, I don't have a tattoo. And there was another great question about Natalie and her ear journey, and I'm going to do a totally separate video on that because I could literally talk about that for 15-20 minutes. So we're going to do that in a totally separate video as well. Thank you for the great question. A couple people asked about the subject of staying positive and being bubbly, and I've talked about this before where it's kind of just my general nature and that sort of thing. But NG Sodhi, I don't know if that's NGSODHI, asked, I love your positive attitude. My questions are, how do you stay positive and focused when having a bad day or a bad week? What keeps your mojo going? And what do you feel, what do you do to feel decompressed from the busy life with kids, husband, and a house to manage? So first of all, I'd say like what I do to like get out of that funk is, first of all, I just accept it. Like some days you just have to accept like today is going to be not such a great day, not such a great day. So I accept it. Some days are better than others. But then the next thing is I don't dwell on it. So I accept it and then I move on. So today isn't the greatest day. That really horrible, like not so fun thing happened, but I'm gonna just keep moving forwards and look forwards to something that's hopefully gonna happen and be more positive. So we've been sick lately and that's kind of a bummer, but I just try not to let things drag me down, and it's just in my general nature to be a little bit more peppy. So it's just kind of like what I go to. But I just know that if it's kind of a bummer of a day, it'll be better later on. And I know, especially like when you have kids close together and they were younger, there were some very tough days in there. Like when they're both babies and you're like carting around 2 babies on your hips and you're exhausted. There's some tough days in there. So you really just have to find the joy, so to speak, and not to use KonMari terms, but you have to really just find those special moments in the day and like really latch onto those. Like those sweet kisses that they give you, or, you know, when they're looking so sweet when they're asleep and they're quiet in their crib. You really just have to soak in those moments and make the most of those, because it helps you get through the tougher parts of the day. So that would be my advice for sure on that. And then also, as far as how do I feel decompressed from a busy life with kids and a husband and house to manage, honestly, YouTube helps me a ton with this. It's honestly why I started YouTube. When I started YouTube, if you look back to my videos 4 years ago, Natalie was a new baby. I was a newer mom and new to having 2 kids, and I felt completely overwhelmed. I will 100% say I felt overwhelmed. It was a lot. It was too much. We did not intend to have kids that close together, and it just happened that way. And I felt overwhelmed. And YouTube was a way for me to feel connected to other moms without having to actually leave the house, which sounds horrible. If you have like a bunch of small children in the house, you know how much of a struggle it is to load everyone up and get in car seats. And if it's not nice outside, like it's, you know, really snowy right now, you have to drag everyone out in the snow. So it took me a while to get to a point where I was doing that all the time. But I eventually, you know, got into a mom's group where I was at and would drag the kids out to play dates. And so that was very helpful as well. As far as me just personally decompressing, that's how I guess I managed it for myself. But as far as personally decompressing, you know, taking those moments where I can go get a pedicure, or stop and drink all of my coffee at one time, or drink all of my tea at one time, taking those moments really, really helps. The next question is from Barbara6. I'm sorry if I'm getting some of the names wrong. I'm trying here. She said, is your husband good with you being at home with the girls? Does he like you doing YouTube? And did you work out of the home before the girls? So we'll just tackle these in order. So we knew from the beginning that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. This is something that we wanted to do if we had the option. Both of our moms were stay-at-home moms for a period of time, and we just felt like that's kind of the setup that we wanted. So over time, obviously, his career has grown, and I have obviously moved to help suit his career, and that's been a part of the deal. And I'd always kind of gone into it knowing that I wanted to be at home for a period of time. And so when YouTube came up, it was one of those things where we've kind of gone through different phases with it. So if you guys have been with my channel for a long time, you guys remember at one point I had a video called "My Husband Hates YouTube?" ? It was in a vlogist at some point. But that was basically because I was still trying to find that time management balance. And he really felt like it was taking over my evenings because I do all of my editing at night after the kids are in bed. So now that I've found a better balance, that's not really so much of an issue. And this kind of scheduling videos ahead and having that week to kind of catch up on things really gives me the time to get everything taken care of pretty much. And it has kind of alleviated that issue. So the scheduling has really, really been helpful as far as the time management issue. And he obviously really appreciates that I do generate an income from YouTube, and it helps pay for things like us to go on vacation and things around the house and things like that. So he appreciates in that aspect. In fact, his career has pretty much gotten to a point where I have obviously moved a number of times to help support him with his career. And if something happens in the near future, it will pretty much hit the point that we will make the decision I'll more than likely be a stay-at-home mom long term. because I'll be needed to, you know, be kind of the full-time parent and take care of everything with the house and take care of everything with the girls. And you know, he's got to be able to focus on his career. And he works very, very hard. He's very good at what he does. He makes a difference. And so he is out there kind of furthering his career. He's working for his family, and you know, he makes a really good salary and, you know, supports us financially. And so it's working. That is what's working for us right now. So you know, so there's some things that in the very short future, I will know very soon whether or not I will more than likely be a stay-at-home mom indefinitely. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that. I'd always kind of thought, well, I'll go back to work at some point, but it's really hit the point now that we have one child in school. I've realized there's not really a way that we can have a way that we want to have both parents in corporate positions. It just would not work for us. It's not the childhood that we envision for them. And we had a lot of discussions about that before we even married and before we even had kids, as far as what we felt we wanted for our children. And for us personally, this setup, I think, is what's going to work out the best. And the fact that I found YouTube and it's almost like a part-time, you know, job, or, you know, like an income that I'm bringing in as well, is kind of just a nice added bonus. So that's kind of how that is. And did I work out of the home before the girls? Yes, I did. In fact, right after I was out of college, I owned a dance studio and I ran that. And then my husband and I got married and we started having to move around to further his career pretty much right off the bat. He got a number of promotions right in the beginning, just bing, bing, bing. And so I sold the dance studio because I just had kind of a premonition of what was going to start happening, and I'm glad I did because it worked out for the best. So I sold the dance studio at one point because the location of it was too far of a commute, and then we had moved a little bit further north in Illinois at that point, and he had started a new position with the company that he works for now. And he had not even been in that position for 6 months, and I had taken a job in HR locally there just to start doing more of a business-oriented thing, and he got moved into another position. So this is basically another step up. And so we moved over to Michigan at that point from Illinois. That was the first move from Illinois to Michigan. And so basically at my 30-day review at the HR job, I also put in my 2 weeks notice. And that's really kind of like the starting point for me, where I, not to say that I put my career on the back burner, because I've found ways that I've turned like all my hobbies into jobs somehow. And I just keep finding all these ways to still have an outlet for me creatively, a creative outlet for me. To do those sorts of things, even if I'm not like often in an office environment. So I've found those ways even when I am at home, so that's worked out well. But after we came from Michigan, I worked on my master's for a while. I was a research assistant at the university I went to, and I also was a research assistant at an independent firm. And then the market tanked right when I graduated. That was when they were like, you know, the whole car company thing and layoffs and all that. So I went back to teaching dance because you make like $30 an hour teaching dance, and I had a lot of background in it, so why not? So I did that for a while, and then the next year I had Bella. So then I became a stay-at-home mom, and that is where we get up to the current moment. So this is from Carrie C. 7508, and she says, how much do you budget fund money while being a stay-at-home mom? You seem to shop/spend a lot. Totally not criticizing, just observing. Smiley face. What are your house goals for the next year? How do you girl? Oh, this is a lot of questions in one. How do your girls play independently so well? Okay, so I'll try to tackle the first one first. Okay, so how much do you budget fund money while being a stay-at-home mom? So I would say first off the bat, don't ever compare yourself to anyone on YouTube, because you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know how much money they make. You don't know how much money they're making from YouTube. I mean, YouTube is income for us. So pretty much any shopping that you see on my channels at this point is funded by YouTube. So let's just put that out there. So as far as budgeting the stay-at-home mom and what we would do, you know, just general, is we have, you know, the money that goes to our bills. We have the money that we put aside to go on our savings and all that sort of kind of realm. And I really don't like getting into the financial stuff because I don't want to create a divide at all between, you know, different financial areas. And I just really hate to get into it. But anyways, we have the money that we use for bills and just the living expenses, money that goes into savings stuff, and then we have extra. There is an extra amount every single month that we have that we use for things around the house, that we use for random stuff from Target, that we use for putting towards buying plane tickets, that we use for me going to Sephora or whatever. So a lot of times now these days, if I buy a purse, or sometimes like Sephora, sometimes even the things for the kids, American Girl stuff, that's all being paid for by YouTube. In fact, the past couple Disney trips, and I've talked about this pretty openly, the past couple Disney trips that we have gone on vacations, I have paid for with money that I've earned from YouTube. So don't ever compare what people on YouTube are doing because you don't know. And one thing that we do is we don't buy a house to the very like top level that we could. And so that gives us more breathing room and more disposable income every month. Because if we had a much higher house payment, then, you know, then you have less disposable income. So that is something I would definitely recommend because we have, for the most part, out of all the houses we've bought, have bought at the lower end of like kind of the range that we've looked in. And this time we were kind of going back and forth. I mean, we had a wide range that we were looking at houses, and we ended up going towards the lower end of it. And there's absolutely no regrets there because it really is the fiscally responsible thing to do. You have more money to play with, and if things with the economy get tight, then you can tighten your belt a lot easier. So if I give one piece of financial advice on YouTube, which I really don't want to get into that because I think, you know, if, you know, you're a financial advisor, that's your job or whatever. But if I, you know, I'm going to hand out one piece of financial advice, it would be that is try to really buy towards the lower limit or the lower end of your, you know, housing range. Because I think that's one of the biggest expenses in life. And if you can buy towards the lower end, you can obviously pay off your mortgage faster and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, that's my thoughts on that, and I'll just kind of leave it at that because I really don't want to get into the financial stuff. I've talked about it like 3 times this week, and I don't want to get into it. So anyways, it's like come up in day in the life videos. So let me just also say, because I'm sitting in the purse room, and I know that this comes up a lot, like with, you know, how do you buy these purses? And again, remember, everyone's coming from a different background, so don't make assumptions, you know, about where people are coming from, I don't think. But I think the thing that a lot of people aren't understanding, if they just see, you know, a quick glimpse, like you have a bag channel, and they're just thinking like you ran out and bought all those bags last week. I've had most of those bags over there for 7, 8, 9, going on 10 years, some of them. And a lot of them are timeless bags. The Louis Vuitton pieces are timeless pieces that literally have just lasted that long. I've had them for a long time. And so I can continue to do videos on them, and they're still relevant now, but the initial cost is obviously long ago. And a lot of them I bought when we were dual income, no kids, dinks. So before I was even a stay-at-home mom. I have bought a couple, I think, since I've been a stay-at-home mom. And then really, if it's a lower amount purchase, a couple $100 bag, I mean, that's always paid for by YouTube. I mean, that's always pretty much going to be covered for by YouTube. For the more expensive purchases, quote unquote, we get windfalls a couple times a year, and my husband is generous enough to share those with me, and you know, there's no stipulations on what I have to use it on or anything. So I get a little bit, he spends it, I get a little bit, he gets a little bit, and we spend it on, you know, whatever we want to spend it on. And then we do save some of it and, you know, do other things with a big portion of it. But, you know, a lot of times if you're seeing those bigger purchases, it's during, you know, one of those kind of events that's happening. So, you know, I mean, don't compare, I guess, because you don't know how much money someone's making from YouTube, and you don't know if, you know, companies give out bonuses and things like that. So, you know, but I would say the big thing with the bags is just remember that I've had a lot of them for a really long time. Most of them are not new. I think within the past calendar year in 2015, I bought maybe 2 or 3 bags, and they were all inexpensive, quote unquote, bags. Which in the bag world, in the bag community, I don't actually shop that much. So it's interesting for me to get these comments over in like more the mom community, where it's more of a frugal minded, and you know, there's not a lot of that. But then if you go over to the bag community, which I consider myself a member of somewhat, I'm gonna get back into it actually. I'm actually one of the people that shop the least in my personal opinion. So it's kind of funny, like, to be in these like 2 different communities that have such a different, like, you know, view of things, where I'm literally viewed in one community as a person that shops a lot versus in another community a budget minded person. So it's really kind of a weird like mental thing for me to figure out between like, okay, what community am I talking today? So anyways, and I also was an authenticator for a number of years, so I could authenticate bags, and I knew how to find good deals, and that really helped me out a lot as well. So, and no, I don't do that anymore. People constantly send me emails and stuff, and I'm like, I don't have the time to do this. When you're an authenticator, you have to like it has to be something that you do daily, and you have to like stay up on it. And I, as a mother and, you know, dealing with all the kids stuff, I don't have time for it anymore. All right, kind of got off subject there. I don't even know what question we're on. What are your house goals for the next year? So assuming that we're still here, because let's keep in mind our house curse of every single time we buy a house, we end up getting transferred a year later. So we really kind of hold off on making like any big, huge changes to make sure we're going to be there. But for the next year, I think we're going to change the entryway flooring. It's tile. It's going to be a huge pain. We're going to have to do it during the summer so that windows can be opened, and I don't know if they're going to have to like, you know, hammer it out of there, however they're going to do it. It's going to be a super huge pain. It's going to be a huge mess. So doing something with that tile, and I want to have it done during a time period when I can get the kids out of the house and out of the way, because it's going to be a mess. It's like right there in front of those 2 main doors, and it's a mess. So that, which I'm not looking forward to. And then also on the list of eventually things to do are putting new countertops in. The cabinets are newer, so those are going to stay, and I'm very happy with those. Like the color of those is actually the color I would have chosen, so hooray for that. Putting new countertops in, and the next year, I'm trying to think what we're going to do in the next year. Maybe replace flooring in a couple other areas, but I'm not entirely sure. And then on the eventually list, we're going to start redoing bathrooms, but I think that's probably 2017. Just depending on the economy also, because, you know, we keep an eye on things, and we really do plan like big projects out around like what we think the economy is going to do. And my husband and I both are of the mindset that we think that there's going to be another recession, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. We think that it's coming up probably in 2016. So I don't want to get into finance stuff. All right. And then how do you girls place independently so well? So a lot of that's training or just like them practicing. So when they were younger, I got in the really bad habit of me sitting in the playroom and entertaining them. And I really had to like wean myself off of that as they got older, because then guess what? If you sit in the playroom and entertain them all day long, they think, regardless of whether they're 3, 4, or whatever, that you're going to sit there and entertain them all day long. And it just hit me one day. I went, I can't sit here and do this, because it makes it so impossible to get anything done around the house. So basically what I would start is when the kids were like 2 to 3 and able to be a little bit more independent, you know, I would pull myself, you know, out of the playroom, it was like the loft area, I think at that point, and I would go vacuum and then, you know, check back in. And then I would go do another house thing and then check back in. And then slowly work up the amount of increments of time that I was like off doing whatever, you know, and I could still keep an eye on them playing, but they were old enough at that point that, you know, I could eyeball them. I didn't need to be standing like right next to them. They weren't like learning how to walk, and they weren't gonna like fall into anything. But you really kind of have to wean yourself off of that, and that's something that I'm continually working on, is trying to be less of a helicopter parent, because it really does benefit them in the long run to be more independent. So I try to continually remind myself of that, and you know, if I feel bad about like, you know, oh, you know, I should do this or that, I just try to remind myself, like, you've already read X number of books today, you've already done this, you've already done that, go get your housework done, and then go back. They'll be better off for it. So it's a continual reminder, and honestly something I'm working on for myself to help them be more independent, because Natalie is actually very, very independent. Natalie right now is playing. It's actually Isabella who I started realizing as she got older, she was very dependent on me, and she still is. So it's something we're continually working on, and I think because I realized my mistake with Isabella, I got better about it with Natalie. And Natalie they have two different personalities, so it really depends on your children too. So I think someone else asked about how they played together, and I'll get into that in a different video because I feel like this video is already like really super long. So thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for all the great questions on Instagram. I'll also be checking, I put a call out on Facebook, and I haven't even looked at it yet because there were so many questions on Instagram. So this will be question and answer part 1 for February. I will get to the rest of the questions because there's tons of good ones. And that is it for today. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.